right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me today. Um, I want to begin with a simple truth. Um, Wisdom does not spring up overnight, right? Imagine that. Wisdom does not spring up overnight, right? It's not something we can download in a moment or discover it in a self-help book. um, True wisdom is a journey. It's a process. You got to go through some things, right? And for the Christian, it's a path that leads straight to God and His wisdom. So, in a world that prizes quick answers and instant gratification, we could sometimes forget that the most valuable things like wisdom take time, discipline, and dedication. The Bible tells us in Proverbs chapter 4 verse 7 that wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. Okay, well, what does that mean? Right? Right? But how do we actually get wisdom? First, we must seek God's wisdom through His Word, right? So you got to read. You got to read and study the Bible. The Bible isn't just a collection of ancient stories. It's a living, breathing guide that reveals the heart of God and teaches us how to live righteously. If we want wisdom, there's no way around it, but we have to spend time in the scripture, not just simply reading, but studying, meditating on it, and allowing it to transform our hearts, right? You gotta digest it and let it marinate. All right. Second, we need mentors and role models. That would help, right? If you can find someone that's doing the things that you want to do, or living the lifestyle, or living the way that you want to live, that's very important. I would say that nowadays it's rare for someone to say, "Hey, man, you're my guy. I want to mentor you and show you how to become awesome." It probably doesn't work like that, but you could find some people. But God has placed wise, godly people in our lives, like pastors, teachers, friends, maybe even family members. And sometimes they're not just teaching you directly; it's kind of an indirect teaching, just by the way that they go about their day-to-day lives, and you could watch and learn, right? But are we listening to them? Are we learning from their experiences and drawing from their walk with God? Right? So you really have to be aware and really watch carefully how people conduct themselves and how they receive that blessing on their lives. Third, we must surround ourselves with godly community, right? It kind of goes back to that old saying, or when people are talking about, you're a product of your environment, right? And that could be the case. If you're around godly people, wise people, right? You can become in turn wise, right? There is a proverb that says, "He who walks with the wise grows wise," right? So it's all about surrounding yourself or being in that environment. And also Proverbs chapter 13 verse 20 says, "Walk with the wise," right? "And become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm," right? You could be around some characters that might not be beneficial for you, but can definitely hurt you. So who are you walking with? Who are you hanging with? Right? Be very careful. If you want to grow in wisdom, I'll say it again, walk with those who are wise in God's eyes. Right? That's very important, to walk with those who are wise in God's eyes. And finally, I'll say, wisdom isn't just about knowing the right thing, right? It takes action, right? It's about doing the right thing, right? So you can't just talk about it. You have to do it. And that takes courage. That definitely takes courage to, practice what you preach, so to speak. In the book of James 1, chapter 1, verse 22, reminds us to be, here we go, doers of the word, right? You have to take action. You have to be a doer of the word and not just hearers, right? So it's important to learn, it's important to read, it's important to hear, it's important to be around all these things, right? But you have to do, you have to live your life that way, and it takes some work and some courage to live that way, right? It's one thing to learn the lessons of the Christian life. It's another to actually live by them, right? So hearing, learning, but also doing. Wisdom is proven by our actions, right? By living with integrity, living with humility and love in a world that often celebrates the opposite, right? You could be living in a world, or you could be in an environment that's very negative, right? And so it could make it very, very difficult for you to live this way, but you got to have integrity. And I'll go back to it and saying you got to have courage as well. Courage is very, very important, because sometimes it's hard to do the right thing, especially if you're around some people who are doing the wrong thing. Then, you got to stand up for what you believe in. So let me ask you this. Do you want to live a life of righteousness and wisdom? Right? Do you want to live a life of righteousness and wisdom? then you simply have to, not even simply, but you have to open the Bible, right? Daily. You gotta open the Bible daily. You have to seek out mentors who walk with God, right? In any profession, if you want to be really good, or you want to be that, seek out the people who are doing it the best, right? Choose friends who challenge and encourage you in your faith, and most importantly, live out what you believe. Huge, huge. Because when you do these things, when you seek God's wisdom and act on it, you will grow in wisdom, and your life will not only be transformed, but you will become a blessing to your friends, to your family, and to the world around you. And who doesn't want that? Who wouldn't want that, right? That's a beautiful thing. So don't wait. Start today. Choose the path of wisdom. Thank you, and God bless.